G'day, good to have you with us on Triple M. It's Cliff and a special edition of The Drive Home today across Western Australia. The message from Cancer Council WA, find cancer early. It's all about acting early and this can literally save your life. We're going to be meeting up with a couple of different people, but firstly, I want to introduce Cassandra Clayforth. Cassandra is the Regional Education Manager for Cancer Council WA. G'day, Cassandra, thanks for being with us.
G'day, Cliff. Thanks for having me.
You deliver the Find Cancer Early campaign. For those people who missed our special last year, please just give us a rundown. What's it all about?
Yeah, so it's essentially just a campaign about helping regional people in WA that are over 40 just become more aware of common cancer symptoms and just motivating them to visit a doctor, clinic nurse or Aboriginal health worker earlier if they notice any unusual symptoms.
Why did you have to develop this campaign? And another question, why only people over 40?
Yeah, so unfortunately, regional people have poorer cancer survival compared to their metropolitan counterparts. And so we promote the campaign and its messages to people over 40 because the chance of developing cancer actually increases after the age of 40. We don't actively promote it to people under 40 because we just don't want to cause unnecessary anxiety in people that are less likely to develop cancer. And we've run 2 ads in the previous years. So people or listeners may recall an ad with rural doctors in the bathroom talking about symptoms.
Yep.
But our most recent campaign includes real people who have had cancer or lost loved ones from cancer, talking about their symptoms and advising to not make excuses for symptoms when you live out here. And we also have similar ads on radio, newspapers and on social media.
Why do you think it is, Cassandra, that regional people have got a poorer survival rate?
So research in WA that was published in 2013 actually shows some delays along the diagnostic pathway for being diagnosed. So those delays are being addressed, but also that research showed that regional people delay seeking help as well.
Why? Any reasons? Is there any research? Is it a bloke thing where we go, that'll go away, that'll be fine, that'll pass, I might have a little bit of a urinary problem, couple of symptoms, but I'm getting older, so I'm not going to worry about it. Is that the bottom line of why people delay? Yeah,
so in that same 2013 research, a number of regional cancer patients mentioned a few things. So travel was a barrier, and therefore they would delay making appointments until there were several reasons to actually visit another town. They also thought that their symptoms were due to other reasons. So, for example, urinary symptoms could be due to ageing, fatigue due to excessive workload, weight loss due to dietary changes, or rectal bleeding due to piles or hemorrhoids. So they didn't actually realise they were all symptoms of cancer. And then some people said that they self-managed their symptoms. So, for example, one participant had developed severe diarrhea and wore incontinence pads for many weeks before actually seeing a doctor. But what regional people, they also told us there were a number of barriers too. So time required off work to travel, availability of appointments, the cost sometimes involved, fear of embarrassment, and then just feeling too busy, and also sometimes relying on population screening.
We've talked about one or two different things, but now I think it's time to have a look for symptoms. If you're over 40, what are the things to look out, really keep an eye out for?
Yeah, so thanks, Cliff. So the most important ones are blood in your poo or in your pee, or if you've coughed up blood, or for more than 4 weeks you've noticed problems peeing, unexplained weight loss, a persistent cough, shortness of breath, an unusual pain, lump or swelling anywhere in the body, a new or changed spot on your skin, or any changes to your bowel habits, including runny poo, pooing more often, or constipation. So if you've noticed any of those or anything unusual for you, please see your doctor, clinic nurse or Aboriginal health worker straight away.
Okay, so if you do notice a symptom, there are screening things like the National Breast Screen campaign. Is it okay to go for one of those or is there another step to take?
Yeah, so those population cancer screening programs such as Breast Screen and the home bowel cancer screening kits, they're really excellent methods for detecting early cancer in people who do not have symptoms, which is what we call pre-symptomatic cancers. So if you do not have symptoms, we definitely encourage you to participate in national cancer screening programs if eligible. However, if you do have a symptom, it's best to see your doctor instead, as participating in a screening program can actually delay your diagnosis, which could lead to a worse outcome.
And is it common for people to be unsure which way to go?
Yeah, it is. So a survey we conducted showed us that 1 in 9 regional people in Western Australia didn't have their symptoms investigated after seeing the Find Cancer Early ads due to an assumption that participating in population screening would be sufficient. So just to summarise again, if you have symptoms, please see your doctor straight away. If you don't have symptoms and you're eligible, please participate in the cancer screening program.
And Cassandra, you did mention there travel. If someone does have to go to Perth for a cancer treatment, what do they do there? Is there something the Cancer Council WA has got in place, maybe an accommodation place, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cancer Council has 2 inexpensive self-catered accommodation lodges in Perth, and that's for cancer patients and their carers from regional Western Australia. And that just helps them for when they're accessing treatments and appointments in Perth. And, you know, during this really interesting time with COVID, they have a range of social distancing and hygiene protocols in place to ensure guests are safe as well.
We've touched on a few things here, Cassandra, but if anyone is after some other information, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, so we have a really great website. It's called findcancerearly.com.au. Or listeners can talk to our cancer nurses on 13 11 20.
And the bottom line, Cassandra, and I know that some of the others are going to reiterate this point as well, find cancer early because it might just save your life. Yeah,
absolutely. And the earlier you find cancer, the more likely you are at having a successful treatment and a better outcome.
Once again, that online site, findcancerearly.com.au, and the support line is 13 11 20, or if you like, 131120. Cassandra Clayforth, thank you so much for being with us. And if we can save one life today, I will be very happy indeed.
Me too. Thank you so much, Cliff.
Thank you
to your listeners.
Take care. Have a good day, and lots more to come. We're going to be talking to a champion, and he really is a terrific fellow, and he's got a very heartfelt message for the blokes too. The message from the Cancer Council in Western Australia is find cancer early. It's all about increasing symptom awareness in regional WA and also prompting people to seek medical advice if you have a symptom or even if you have a little bit of a worry. And I've got a great story here. David Bolt is retired now. Previously, he was a farmer for about 50 years, and he is a champion. Melanoma is what we're talking about this time. G'day, David. How you going?
Hello, Cliff. No, look, I'm feeling really well, as haven't had anything cut off for 2.5 years, so I tell you what, I'm on top of the world.
Very good news, and I'm sure, David, that the world is a much more interesting place with you in it, and thank you for helping us out. Being one of the champions, you've got a heck of a story to tell. Take us back, can you? Tell us about the changes that you noticed in the moles on your skin, because there was a couple of them, I believe, and then what actually prompted you to ultimately visit the doctor?
Yes, well, I had a couple on, because I always wore shorts, and right on the backs of my legs. One had a mole came up, had that taken off, and within 6 months the other one came up, had that taken off, and they were both clear, of course, you know, of anything serious, but they were still cancers. And then from then on I had one on my cheek and one on my chest, and when it got to the one on my chest, the doctor says, I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to send you to a dermatologist. And from then on, with the help of my wife and my very good dermatologist, I get regularly checked every 6 months. At one stage when I had my melanomas off, it was every 3 months. But I guess the big improvement, the big thing was my wife would have spotted just about everything that I've had taken off, and she got it real early.
That is the key. Find cancer early. So when the doctor said to you, hey, this is a little bit of a worry, did you take that advice straight away and go, or was there any delay, or you're thinking, I might just wait and see?
No, straight to the doctor, straight to the dermatologist, no mucking around. I've been like that all my life, and it all started encouraging when they had a started Well Person's Clinic 35 years ago, and I've just been a regular every year going to that sort of thing.
Okay, so the doctor's advice, you had the moles removed, but what else? Like, was that a relatively simple procedure for you?
Yes. Oh, look, I think it was because they were all very tiny. The melanomas, each melanoma, when the doctor said, I don't like the look of that, he took it out with the biopsy, but because they came back melanoma, he had to go back in and take the 5 millimetre gap around, which, hasn't worried me at all.
Mm.
And I guess the interesting part is that being a red-headed farmer, the cardiologist said I'm at the top of the tree when it comes to melanomas and skin cancers. But the 4 melanomas have never been out in the sun. They've all been areas where, because I've never been able to, get around with my gear off. And yes, they're all hidden spots, really. But as he said, doesn't matter if you've been in the sun, doesn't matter where the melanoma will come out, can come out anywhere.
Tell me, David, what is it like when the doctor says to you, we've done the results, it's a melanoma, and you go, oh my God. What was your reaction?
I didn't panic at all because he said I've taken it all out in the biopsy, so therefore I knew it wasn't going to be a big event to have the 5 millimetres taken out right around afterwards. That's minor compared to some people who, have to go under surgery. This was only minor surgery, really. I've been so lucky.
So what's your message now, David?
My message is just go to the doctor. Don't be frightened. If you've got anything suspicious on your body, just go and get it checked. And make sure, get your wife or your partner just to check your body. It's fun having them check you over anyway. Make sure.
Yeah.
And make sure. Yeah, it is.
And how often do you go now to the dermatologist or to your GP for just a bit of a look over?
I go to the dermatologist every 6 months now. It was 3 when I had the melanomas, but now it's 6. And look, he's still at me with his burning bits off my arms and that sort of stuff, and on the top of my head, that's the little scaly bits. He still burns those off. But as far as having any cancer, I've had nothing for 2.5 years, which is an absolute bonus.
David, you are definitely a champion of the Find Cancer Early message. As I said to you just when I got you on the phone before, I'm sure the world is a much more interesting place with you in it, my friend. And thank you so much for being a part of our special today. And may you live a much longer life and be very happy indeed. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Cliff.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
David Bolt. David is one of our champions. And by gee, there's certainly a cautionary tale. Find cancer early. You must, if you see something that might be a little bit of a worry, if you're feeling something that's just not quite right, you've seen some symptoms, you've got to get yourself off to get checked. And today, it's great to have him with us. His current occupation is Emeritus Professor of General Practice at UWA and President of the West Australian Medical Museum. Also, you would have seen this gent, he was one of the GPs who starred in the first Find Cancer Early TV advertisements, and he's with us on the phone at the moment. Dr. Max Camian, good afternoon, and thank you for your time. I hope you're well.
Good afternoon, Cliff.
How often do GPs see somebody and the cases of cancer through the rooms? Is it a rarity? Is it becoming more prevalent? Give us an idea.
It's not a rarity, and it depends upon the age of the patients that you see. And the older the clientele, the more cancer cases that you will see. Now, I reckon that I would see about 20 cases in a year, and that's because most of the patients that I used to have had grown up with me and they were getting quite old.
What is it like, doctor, to have to look at somebody and say, I'm sorry, the tests are back, it's cancer?
Well, it depends on the cancer, and it depends on the outcome of those particular cancers. But it's something you have to do, and it's something that you can't just say, well, you've got cancer and I'm going to send you off to somebody. You've got to follow them up and provide support and provide interpretation of what they're being told often. And for many cancers, it's not really a death sentence.
And the most important thing is go early. That's the theme of this entire hour, go early. But you must see a lot of patients and a lot of symptoms. How does a GP know if that's a cancer symptom or perhaps something a little less serious?
Well, you don't know, but if a person comes in and they say, I'm feeling terrible, I've lost energy, I'm losing weight, and they have a symptom like, my bowel habits have changed and I've noticed that there's blood in my stools and I soil my trousers, and you've got a fair guess that this is going to be a cancer of the bowel.
You must have heard all the excuses under the sun, especially in regional areas where you were a rural locum, for people not going to see the doctor. What do you say to them?
Well, I don't blame them. I don't put blame upon them. What they usually say to me is, oh, well, yeah, Doc, I should have seen you earlier, but you know how it is. I've got a lot of sheep to look after, and I never got round to it. And it's the never getting round to it that's the sad part. Some people have actually said to me, you won, Doc, because I was saying to them, you've got to have these tests. And they would say, well, when I've got time. And I've always said to them, I didn't win, we both lost. And it's like that. And people who see something and they don't do anything about it, I think they're being silly. They're being silly for themselves. They're being silly for their family. And prevention is much easier than cure. And that's the message I try to get across.
And the good thing is survival rates seem to be getting better too, I believe.
Well, indeed they are, because there's an enormous amount of research that's going on with different cancers and the development of different methods and different medications that can be used. And the results of things that were really death sentences 20 years ago are having some very good results. Things like melanomas that have spread because people noticed a black spot somewhere and didn't do anything about it. The outcomes of those are much better than they were.
And the symptoms to look out for. We've said you've got to find cancer early. So what are the things to keep an eye out for?
If you're a woman and you're in the shower and you feel a lump in your breast, get it looked at. It needs to be looked at. It needs to have a needle biopsy. It needs various radiographic tests. Make sure, because the earlier you get it, the better. If you notice any blood in your urine, if there's a change of bowel habit, it may not be cancer, it may just be a hemorrhoid, but get it checked out.
The message there, of course, is Find Cancer Early, and that's the website as well, findcancerearly.com.au. When somebody comes to you and they say, Doc, oh, look, I should have seen you a long time ago, embarrassment, I couldn't face, because, people in rural areas, there can be some small towns, small population, and people get embarrassed. What's your bottom line, Doc?
My bottom line is, I say, look, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. For you, it's a big deal if someone's going to look in your bottom or in your vagina. It's a really big deal. For me, it's what I do every day. So it's not a big deal for me. So get over it because that's what I do. I'm not embarrassed. There's no need for you to be embarrassed. It's your body. You don't have to be embarrassed with your body.
Gee, I tell you what, I really hope that we have got the message through to some people, and Doc, you have helped no end with that. Dr. Max came in. Thank you so much for being part of our special, and I hope I never meet you in your professional capacity other than to get your advice and wise words. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Cliff. A pleasure.
Take care. Find cancer early. It might just save your life. SunSmart. We all know about the sun. We didn't always know about the sun Ask me how I know that. Sally Blane is the SunSmart manager at Cancer Council WA. Now, the SunSmart program is all about reducing skin cancer incidence, the morbidity and the mortality through a prevention and early detection program. That's what it's about. And I've got a story to tell you too. But firstly, let's introduce Sally Blane. Hello, and thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thanks, Cliff. Good to be here.
We hear the stories that skin cancer is very common in Western Australia, but just how common?
Look, it's ridiculously common, unfortunately. So 2 in 3 Australians are diagnosed with skin cancer before the age of 70. And look, to be honest, the statistics are pretty sobering. Skin cancer is so common that they account for about 80% of all skin cancers diagnosed in Australia. But the really important thing to note is that regardless of your age, it's not too late to prevent these skin cancers or to make them worse. So regardless of your age, we can still have an impact on reducing those skin cancer numbers by protecting our skin. As I'm sure you know, we spent a lot of time quite often in the sun as youngsters, but it's not. We can turn that around, and that's by protecting ourselves throughout our lives. There are 3 main types of skin cancers. There's your BCCs, or basal cell carcinomas. So this accounts for about 2/3 of all skin cancers. And they grow quite slowly. They can be pretty contained, and luckily they can be pretty easily dealt with, often just by your GP. There's also the SCCs, or squamous cell carcinomas. So these often occur on those sun-exposed parts of the body, your scalp, your face, your ears, on the lips, on the neck as well. They can be a little bit more serious, and we do have deaths from SCCs in Western Australia every year. Now, melanomas are the ones that you hear about most often, and they actually only account for about 2% of all skin cancers. They are, however, the most dangerous, and they can spread really, really quickly, unfortunately. And there's about 1,500 people every year in Western Australia who are diagnosed with melanoma. So it is a pretty serious one.
We hear about the UV index, and here it is. It's winter. It's been pretty cool so far, and people might be thinking, well, that's okay. I won't be damaging myself if I go out there unprotected during winter. What actually causes skin cancer? Is it the UV rays or the heat?
No, so it's absolutely the UV, or ultraviolet radiation. So that comes from the sun, and about 95% of all skin cancers are just caused by the sun. So our skin cells are damaged by that UV light, and the damage that happens to that DNA sometimes can't be repaired, and it can manifest itself as skin cancer much, much later in life. UV is actually a class 1 carcinogen, so it's in the same category as alcohol and tobacco and asbestos. So we know that it's UV radiation from the sun that causes cancer. It is really important. It's a really common myth that the heat is what makes you burn. And you often hear people say, I can feel myself getting sunburned. I can feel that heat on my skin. But that's not what is causing the sunburn. You can't actually see or feel UV radiation. It's not the same as heat, so it doesn't create that sensation on the skin. So you often don't know that you're getting sunburnt until it's too late. So what you really have to do is to check the UV index, because it is totally different to heat. And most people actually get sunburnt on those cooler days because you're not expecting to get sunburnt. You might plan your day of golf or your day out on the boat or whatever you're doing on a low temperature day because it's a much more pleasant day, and not thinking about the UV and that sunburn. Now, you're right, we love this time of year in SunSmart because the UV is so much lower. But what will happen is, as we kind of get in towards those spring and summer months, that UV will start climbing, and that's when you need to protect yourself. So whenever the UV is over 3, protect your skin. However, everywhere north of Perth has days above 3 every single day of the year. So, yeah, something that people don't realise, regardless of the temperature. So don't associate temperature with sunburn or UV. They're totally different things and can really get you into a little bit of trouble.
And of course, this, as you mentioned, is completely preventable. Tell me about the 5 S's.
Yeah, so it can be difficult to say, but the old slip, slop, slap, seek and slide. So starting off with clothing, look, clothing is the easiest way to protect your skin. It stays in place, it doesn't rub off, it doesn't blow off. So if you can, cover as much skin as you can with clothing whenever the UV is over 3. So that might even be rashes when you're swimming. Hats, they should have a brim, so not those baseball-style caps, because then you get those parts of your ears and your neck and the side of your face are really exposed to the sun. So make sure it's got a brim. Sunscreen should be used every day whenever the UV is over 3, but just don't rely on it on its own. If you go to the beach in a bikini and you're just putting on sunscreen, you're probably going to get sunburn. Hopefully you don't do that, Cliff, but you will get sunburn if you just put on sunscreen. And then, of course, there's sunnies and shade as well.
Now, Sally, we talked about, the types of skin cancers, the prevalence of it, but what if you do notice something on your skin and you go, I don't know about that. First step to the GP, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you do notice those changes, you should go and see your GP. And those changes might include something on your skin that's changed size or changed shape or colour. It might itch or bleed, but it might not as well. It might just look a bit different. It might just look a bit strange in regards to the other spots that are around it. It might be a sore that hasn't healed in a few weeks, and something that you think was not there before. So if you see any of those things and it's not gone away and it's kind of sticking in the back of your mind, don't wait. Go and see your GP and get them to check it out. What can happen is if you wait, if it's something like a melanoma, they can actually get worse very quickly. So the earlier you go to the GP, the quicker they can follow up and it can get dealt with. If you wait, it can become a lot more serious. So it is important to go pretty early. But one thing we do recommend as well is, particularly for those of us over 40, is to check your own skin about every 3 months. And that's all of your skin. So even where the sun don't shine, because sometimes things like melanomas can come up on places where you might not expect. So all of your skin, checking every 3 months. If you notice anything, just go and get it checked out.
There's a friend who had a melanoma between his toes. There's another fellow I know who several years ago, after spending decades in the sun as a surf lifesaver, he did the Bluey Day. So he shaved his head for Bluey Day. A doctor noticed something on his head because he was completely bald and, asked the question, have you got a doctor? I see that you've shaved your head there. Yeah, come on. I've heard all the lines. Do yours for me. And he said, there's something on your head that needs some attention. It turned out to be the very early stages of a melanoma. If he hadn't done the head shave for the Bluey Day, would never have been found. So I guess the message is there, like you say, you got to check every single inch of your skin.
Yeah, look, and sometimes you need a bit of help, so that can be fun as well, to find someone to help you. Look in all those nooks and crannies. So, but the main thing is just check yourself out, and hopefully it was a good outcome for him because he went to see his GP pretty early and was spotted by that doctor.
Yes, it most certainly was a good outcome for him. Otherwise, it could have killed him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we're trying to prevent. Do you mind if I tell my personal story here, Sally?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that'd be great.
Having seen 6 decades and an awful lot of summers, we used to spend all day at the beach back in the 70s. Who knew about sunscreen? We didn't know about that, despite the fact that we've had the message for about 40 some years. I had one behind my knee that the doctor was keeping an eye on. It started to go dark, and he said, "Yeah, I think I'll have that." There was one on my belly, a little lesion thingy, and he said, "Yeah, we'll have that as well." Now, I've had a number of seborrheic keratosis.
Yes.
I think I said that right?
Yes.
There was one on my hip. I just don't like the look of them. And I said, listen, if you're going to take these off, you might as well do this one as well. Well, blow me down. That was the one that turned out to be a melanoma in situ.
Yep. And it's those keratosis, so they can sometimes be referred to as sunspots as well. They can be almost precancerous. So they're not cancer yet, but they can become it. But it certainly is a sign of damage to your skin. And if you've got them, they should be kept an eye on by a GP. And, if you decide to take them off, then, that might be your choice. But just getting them checked out and following up on that is really important. And you're right in that, back in the 70s, 80s, even when I was a kid growing up on a farm running around with no hat on, no sunscreen, it's because of that we're now seeing all these huge rates of skin cancer in Australia. So luckily, though, we have learned our lesson, I think, and things are changing a lot for our younger generations, which is really great to see.
The SunSmart program has been around for about 40-some years. How can we find out some more about that, Sal?
So I would visit myuv.com.au, so that's our website, and on there you can also see the daily UV forecast for wherever you are in Western Australia. So it will give you the times of day when you need to protect your skin and also the maximum UV where you are as well. So it's a really good tool to go in and have a look at that. It's also got some information on some of our programs, like our TV campaign. We also run programs for schools and childcare centres because we know preventing that UV exposure to young kids is really, really important to prevent skin cancers later in life. You can also have a look at the SunSmart app. So it's a free app that you can download onto your phone. And again, it will tell you the UV wherever you are, right across Australia, actually. It's a handy tool to have.
And as we say, it might just save your life. Find
Absolutely.
cancer early. And that website, once again, is myuv.com.au. Sally, thank you for some words of wisdom there. And I think that, if we can keep that message out there, find cancer early, you won't get, look, and I kind of generalise a little bit, but we blokes, we're not that good at looking after ourselves sometimes. We're the ones that go, that'll go away, that'll be fine. It might not. And there may be an empty seat at the Christmas table this year, which would be just awful. Sally Blane, SunSmart Manager for the Cancer Council WA, thanks so much for being with us on Triple M today.
Thanks, Cliff. Really appreciate it.